Hail Mary Monday, right here on the Out of Bounds Show, driven by Fowler GMC, Pearl Brandon. Awesome selection of pre-owned and new GMC Sierra trucks and GMC Yukons. FowlerGMC.com. That's Fowler. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. This is 105.9 The Zone ESPN. We welcome in Tom Luginbill on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line, national college football analyst with ESPN. Lugs, did you get to see Bill Belichick's girlfriend Saturday?
There was not a Jordan sighting that I noticed, but I wasn't going around looking either.
Okay. Well, I knew you called the game.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know if you had a sighting there. All right. How about you join us all throughout the year, and so you know what this Mississippi State football program's been through since Mike Leach died. How about them Bulldogs and the way they won on Saturday night against Dillingham, Sam Leavitt, and Arizona State, Luke's?
I'll tell you, I have not seen anybody defend Sam Leavitt as well as that team did. I mean, you hold Sam Leavitt to 10 of 22 for what, 80-something yards? I was really, really impressed with the approach. I thought they were more physical. Obviously, the environment distinctly helped them. You could tell that Arizona State was impacted by it. You know, I tell people all the time, and you know this, you're there all the time, but, like, I've broadcasted games in just about every big major stadium there is in this country, and that sound does not leave your ears until Tuesday. Okay. And you can sit there and put videos out on the internet and have GAs walking around ringing cowboy bells or Christmas bells or whatever the heck it is. There is no way you were simulating what that environment was. And then I think the other thing that I took away from it was Arizona State was so aggressive. And sometimes when you live by pressure, you die by pressure. And you're willing to take the good and the bad. You're willing to say, okay, you know, we're going to take a risk here. If we get home, we're going to be the winner. If we don't, we're going to be potentially exposed. And that's exactly what happened late in that game.
Yeah, they sold out, and Brennan Thompson was wide open. The dude can fly. You know about him from Oklahoma.
Oh yeah. I mean, they looked sharp. They looked well coached. They looked well prepared. And I said this to you, you know, going into last season when we would talk about Blake Shapen. You know, Blake Shapen's a good player, but he's got to stay healthy, right? When he's played well. Staying on the field has been the biggest challenge for him, but looks like they've got something that they can build around there.
Yeah, he made some big-time throws, Luke's, on Saturday night, and it is good to see him healthy. When he played at Baylor, he was good. He was pretty good last year until Florida, you know, he got knocked out. Man, he came out of the gate on fire, and they were able to get up 17-0. Then Arizona State dominated the second half until the end there. But you've called games on that field on the field since they bowled in the stadium, and you mentioned it last week before you got off the air. And Leavitt and Dillingham were affected throughout the evening as far as communication and trying to get what they wanted to get done. And don't you started at quarterback at Georgia Tech. That wears on you as the game goes on, doesn't it, Luke?
Well, not only does it wear on you, it wears on you when you don't have momentum.
Right.
There's nothing to keep everything quiet, right? And if you get backed up in that closed end, you know, and they start getting going, I think that's the thing. Because of the early jump out, it created something that never went away. Mm-hmm. And that was hard for Arizona State to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't walk in those stadiums for the most part 95% of the time in the Big 12, or hell, the Pac-12 before that. So, yeah, it was a big win for Levy. You know, Lugs, you've watched so many guys, and whether they make it or don't make it, you talk about the turning point. I've always thought you have to have a win like this in your first two seasons, and who knows what's going to play out, but this could inject the confidence and the belief in a team that they can finally win, and it's the first time since Leach's last season.
Well, I think that's the thing is it reinforces whatever buy-in Jeff Levy and the staff are asking for,
yes.
right? Because you see some fruits of the labor. You see a team have what they want and go out and execute it, and then you see results. And so now you're like, okay, I see this now. Or if you got guys that have been pushing back or, have been fighting it, you're like, okay, now I'm kind of getting the hang of this thing now. So I do think that is important. I think that it matters. But I was just impressed with their urgency. They came out swinging right out of the gate, and that stuff can carry, man. It can carry for a long time.
And now they got Alcorn State, Northern Illinois, so it's kind of teed up until they get Tennessee in 3 weeks at home. Let's go to
now what you got to do. Now what you got to do too, Bo, is you got to not screw it up.
Right.
Now you have to go out and do what Auburn did to Ball State. Do what Alabama did to Louisiana Monroe. You can't have a setback because of how you view an opponent.
Right. No, I agree. I thought Levy had a great quote. We have to learn from winning, not just losing.
Yes, correct. There's lots of, everybody talks about dealing with adversity, but dealing with expectations because you've played well can be every bit as challenging.
Yeah, because everybody on campus all week's going to tell them they're awesome. And that's why I thought Levy nailed it with, hey, we've got to learn from winning. And I thought, damn, that I like that. You know that from playing. I think it's easier to get on the practice field in the film room after you lost and dial in, but after you win, can you learn what where you need to improve and so on. Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds show. All right, Ole Miss. They go on the road. They get a conference win, and they did what they needed to do against Kentucky, which Kentucky's just, for whatever reason, been a problem for them as of late and had a bunch of close games. So I was impressed with them. A young team, a younger team than, last year they were a veteran-laden team. Young team, go on the road. They win at Kentucky. What's your takeaway there?
Well, they win and didn't play well. I think that's the thing, is you found a way to win. Now, I actually think Kentucky's improved. And to be honest with you, if Kentucky had any quarterback play, Ole Miss probably wouldn't have won that game. And so I thought it was a good moment for a young quarterback to be on the road as a starter, have things not go well, and see what he does. All right, because that first half for Ole Miss was not pretty. And the quarterback, and give Kentucky some credit, they had some really nice presser packages. They were in his face. And when that happens sometimes, is the guy either going to go in the tank or is he going to be able to recover from it? And until you get him in that moment, you may think you know what he's going to do, but you really don't know what he's going to do. And so I think the way Ole Miss won that game is a building block for them.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That's right. They didn't play well, but it's a conference game on the road against a team that's good on defense. And they won the game, so that's huge. Do you think Ole Miss and Arkansas? We don't know what's happening with Austin Simmons. Lane Kiffin claimed that he could come back in. We don't know if that's. It looked bad, but maybe that's the case. Maybe he actually could have come back in and played at somewhat of a high level. I don't know, but I know it's early in the year. Do you expect Arkansas at Ole Miss to be competitive, or do you think blowout Rebs at home?
No, I do. I think it's going to be very competitive, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a lot of fireworks in that one.
Okay.
Because right now that offense for Arkansas, that quarterback, Taven Green, is pretty good.
Yeah, he is.
And, I think, everybody's kind of waiting to see, because there's a lot of talk about Sam Pittman because everybody likes him, right?
Right.
And everybody wants him to succeed. And they look like they're, making progress, but they haven't been able to take that next step. And now they haven't played anybody, but they're 2-0. And they look good. They look like they're playing well. They look like they're improved. I expect that to actually be a really good game. Okay.
That's Vaught Hemingway, Saturday night, Arkansas at Ole Miss. Last year we didn't have – no, I want to go to Oklahoma first, and then we'll go overall. All right. So give the Sooners credit. Venables is one that they haven't been real happy with either. And they did what they needed to do. John Mateer can flat out play. You already knew that. So talk about their good win. I know Michigan's not good on offense, but their defensive coordinator's hell, and they still got some players. What was your takeaway from Oklahoma winning on Saturday night?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle have been two fantastic additions, two fantastic hires by Brett Venables. They've changed the tone of the offense. That guy is so exciting and so dynamic and can make so many plays. But I will say this, Oklahoma still has not corrected their inability to run the football when the quarterback's not involved. And that's been something the last 2 to 3 years that have really plagued them. They haven't been great in the offensive line, although I do think that they are better. But take John Mateer away, and Oklahoma doesn't run the football very well. And so I think that's going to have to get corrected a little bit because you're going to want to protect your quarterback to some degree too. But he is so exciting, and they had advantages. They're playing at home against a first-year true freshman quarterback. You knew that kid was going to make some mistakes, and as freshman quarterbacks do, no matter how talented he is, I kind of felt like Michigan protected him a little bit, got a little conservative. But Oklahoma's improved, man. They're better, but I got to see them be able to run the football if, for whatever reason, John Mateer is not there to create a lot of those exciting plays.
Yeah, Mateer led him in rushing by 50 yards, and that's not a good thing. No. I agree. I mean,
I just don't think it's sustainable every single week.
Right. We're seeing that, I think, because of the portal and offensive linemen transferring in after spring ball, Lugs. And I'd like for you to weigh in on this as someone who played quarterback. But it's almost like coaching staffs have to do this. They have to use the first 2 to 3 games of the season to try to get the chemistry right on the offensive line because people are adding people in June and July, right?
Well, there's no question. In fact, I would actually say it's more difficult than it's ever been before. I mean, it used to be difficult when, let's just say under the old days, and you've got, your roster returns every year outside of the guys you lose and then the freshmen you bring in. And let's just say you're a team that loses 3 starters in the offensive line, and now you got 3 new starters in the offensive line, but the 3 new starters that they've all been there. They've been within the program, and that still takes time. Now imagine doing what you're outlining, and you're trying to go out there and find the right mentality, the right personality, the right athleticism, the right strength, all of the different things you need, and then you bring them all in from a variety of different places, and that's the one position group that is the most difficult to get to gel in a short period of time. So now it's even more magnified how difficult it is to do.
Tom Luginbill with ESPN on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. How were you surprised? So I thought Florida had turned the corner last year. They win their last 5 games. Lagway wasn't even healthy a lot of the times, but man, he was still good, and you could just tell. I just thought superstar, love all his moxie and metal and grit. And Napier hung in there and proved that all those G5 games meant something at Lafayette. And then they lose to – and I think they've recruited well, and they jumped in the portal. I was almost shocked. What was your reaction to Florida losing to South Florida, Luke's?
Well, I was shocked too, but I did broadcast the South Florida-Boise game the week before, and I can tell you that was not a fluke. South Florida's got guys. And to be honest with you, had Byron Brown not gotten injured last year, they probably would have been a 9 or 10-win team a year ago. Nevertheless, still went bowling, so it tells you how good the roster was around, them playing behind a backup quarterback. So I was surprised because when a game like the Boise State-South Florida game happens, how does that not get your attention if you're Florida? How does that not all of a sudden get your hackle up and you're going, oh boy, we better buckle our chin strap this week? As opposed, because Florida played that game like Boise State had beat South Florida by 3 touchdowns. Right? And so to me, I'm looking at that and I'm going, guys, first of all, you weren't prepared. If that's going to be your mindset, the way you're going into that game. And then I think the thing that stood out the most to me is when you let a talented team linger and kind of hang around. I don't care if you're at home, if you're away, if you're in a parking lot. that spells doom in many instances. And where it really manifested itself was the lack of ingenuity, creativity in the red zone for Florida on offense. They moved the ball. It's not like, DJ Lagway had a bad day. It's not like statistically you went, oh my God, boy, he just was in the tank today. But when they got into the red area on offense, I couldn't believe the approach that they took. They didn't spread them out. They didn't try to create space. It was a weird approach. But that South Florida team now, they've got athletes. They did a really good job in the portal, and the quarterback is a handful.
Okay. All right. I want to go to some of the scores over the weekend. So before the transfer portal, we're used to Georgia and Texas and LSU winning these games by 40 to 60 points. What am I supposed to do with LSU? And maybe they're just sleepwalking through this game, whatever. But I just want your thoughts on it. LSU beats La Tech 23-7. Georgia usually scores 50 points by halftime against an Austin Peay. They scored 28 total. Texas, it looked like they were still sleepwalking coming off of a Ohio State win. They win 38-7. What do I do with that? Nothing, or what's your takeaway on that, Luke?
I think that every team is subject to playing down to the level of competition when they know that they are athletically superior. It's almost human nature. And that's why you have to have an appreciation for what Auburn did, for what Alabama did. Mm-hmm. We talked about, Mississippi State now taking that next step. Go out and beat the doors off of these next two opponents, right? Don't play down to the level of competition. Don't breathe. Don't take a breath. Just go. We see it every year. I don't know if it defines a team. We could be having this conversation today, and 3-4 weeks from now, somebody will beat a G5 team, and maybe they don't look good, and then they get into the conference slate and they're rolling.
Sure.
I just don't know if it's something that is problematic unless you start seeing a trend. Like, to me, I would have been much more concerned about Alabama today than I was coming off of the Florida State game had they gone out and gone through the motions.
Okay.
Way more concerned, because now it would have been like, okay, well, clearly they haven't made progress, and what happened versus Florida State was real, and maybe Florida State's really good, but Alabama's not pissed off, right? And I thought that was impressive by Alabama, regardless of the opponent. But I would have been really worried if they hadn't done that.
How concerned should Clemson be after their game against Troy? And are we to the point now where we just know that Cade Klubnik is not going to be special, even though I guess the staff and people thought he would be?
Not concerned at all on defense, but very concerned on offense. This looks like 2023 Clemson. And I fear a little bit that this team may have really bought into the off-season hype. The attaboys, the pats on the back. Hey, listen, you've got all of these wideouts now. We haven't had them here in 5-6 years, but now we've got 3 or 4 of them, and the offensive line's all back. And, Cade Klubnik made a huge leap last year, which he did. He deserves credit for that. But the Cade Klubnik that's playing right now is not the 2024 Cade Klubnik. He's reverting back to indecisiveness, a lack of anticipation, holding on to the ball too long, not just cutting it loose and letting it rip. And I don't know what's going on, but they better buckle up, because guess who they got this week?
Georgia Tech?
Yep.
Brent, dude, that guy knows how to coach.
Yep.
Good. And Haynes King, if you let him, he will beat you. And it'll look like he's got 2 torn ACLs and everything else. And then in the fourth quarter, Lugs, as you know, with 4 minutes left, he'll just drive it down the field and win. They got to be careful, man.
They got to be careful, and it's on the road. I mean, I would be very, very concerned. I mean, Clemson better show up ready to play, because Georgia Tech's going to be ready to play.
All right, well, let's do some rapid fire with Lugs, because we got a hell of a slate this weekend. This is going to be fun. So he mentioned, he touched on Ole Miss and Arkansas for a second. That could be a hell of a game. I know Ole Miss blew their doors off last year, but it's a different year. And he mentioned Clemson and Georgia Tech. Let's go with the Georgia Bulldogs at Tennessee. Luke's, who do you like and why?
Well, right now I like Tennessee because I think Tennessee's playing better football. I don't know why Georgia seems to be on cruise control. That score, by the way, was not indicative of how that game was played. I mean, I think the final is 28-6, but that's not what that was throughout the course of the game. And so I'd be very concerned if I was a Georgia fan. And listen, Joey Aguilar, I think we would all agree, is an upgrade at quarterback for Tennessee.
Yeah.
And he's playing good football. So I would lean towards the Vols here because I don't like how Georgia has played in the first 2 weeks.
Okay, fair enough. Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds show hanging out with us. Texas A&M at Notre Dame, Luke's.
Ooh, that might be the best game of the weekend. Nobody's talking about A&M. They're playing well. You know, I was sitting there thinking because, you know, we talk about all these quarterbacks and nobody talks about Marcel Reed. And to me, Marcel Reed is the SEC version of Kevin Jennings at SMU.
Hello.
That's who he is. And he just finds a way to move the chains. He just finds a way to make plays. He can throw the ball from all kinds of angles. He can run it if you need him to. I think that now, I'll say this. They're going on the road, right? And they're playing a team. I think that C.J. Carr at Notre Dame is going to be special.
Okay.
I think he's going to be really good. So if he continues to make improvement, Notre Dame is really, really good, and A&M is going to have to deal with that road environment.
I think we have time for at least one more. Florida at LSU. LSU laying 9.5.
Well, they're laying 9.5, but they didn't play great this past weekend. But they're laying 9.5 because of the egg that Florida laid.
Yep.
I would be surprised if Florida shows up and plays poorly. I really would.
I agree.
And Brian Kelly cannot allow his team to fall into that trap. It's going to be a great game, athlete for athlete. I think it's going to be a really well-matched game. Anytime you're playing at that place, though, I mean, it is so difficult to get out of there with a win. But I think Florida will respond well, but I probably will lean towards LSU. Rapid
fire with Tom Luginbill. We got 30 seconds, time for one more. Vanderbilt at South Carolina, Luke's.
Oh, you know, Lenore Sellers has not played as consistently well as I thought that he would through 2 weeks. That surprised me a little bit, but I don't think Vanderbilt's talented enough to beat him.
Okay. Two playmakers at quarterback, Sellers and Diego. Could be some fireworks at Williams-Brice on Saturday night. Tom Luginbill, you're the best. Thanks, buddy.
All right, man. See you.
National college football analyst with ESPN. If you missed any of the show, you can find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. And we ran about an hour and a half on YouTube. Also, search Out of Bounds Sports. Our YouTube channel, search Out of Bounds Sports. Lunch today brought to you by McBee's on Lake Harbor in Ridgeland. And as part of it being 9/11 week, first responder appreciation, their blue plates are $9.11 all week at McBee's on Lake Harbor. See ya.